Tonight, our first speaker is Cheryl, who, by the way, is one of the founders of this meeting. She's been at this meeting longer than any of us, for 37 years.
Well, it's 47, but yeah, for the meeting it's 37.
37 years
Yeah.
for the meeting.
Yes. Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm an alcoholic. And they very nicely set up a little thing here to put a bottle of water in, but I don't drink bottles of water, so I'm going to hold this. It's my little drinky cup. Let's see. I do not like doing this. I actually kind of hate it. It's interesting, I haven't done this for quite a while, because usually if you complain a lot, nobody else will ask. So, a little secret for you there. But what was true when I got here, I felt like I didn't earn enough Purple Hearts to have a right to this thing, because I hadn't gotten any 502s or other things that happen to people who are alcoholic and are out there in the world. And I felt like I didn't have enough whatever to be able to pay anything back or to give anything back, and I didn't think I ever would have. And interestingly enough, it's been a while since I've done this, and that little alcoholic voice has popped up again, which is why I changed my mind after Marilyn asked me. I said no. And then on thinking about it, I thought, well, the only way to get past that nasty little voice that never has anything good to say is to challenge it, to go do it and find out if it's telling me the truth. So here we are. We'll see what comes out. I don't know. Let's see. So I didn't have a big drunkalog. I didn't get in a lot of trouble. I didn't get 502s or a lot of that stuff. I was very protected as an alcoholic woman. I didn't, if I was out, he drove, I drank. That's the way that worked. The last couple of years of my drinking, every time I drank, I got sick. And I would wake up in the morning at 3 or so to throw up. And I have that nasty conversation with myself in the mirror about what an asshole I was and wasn't worth anything, and the whole litany of nasty things that my disease likes to tell me. And the last time I drank, that happened as usual, and I gave myself the choice of getting up and going to work in the morning, because it was a Sunday when this happened, or calling in sick and not facing it, and going to an AA meeting, actually, was the alternative. And you guys were just that tiny little bit less terrifying to me than going to work was. That's how come I'm here. My mom got sober when I was 13. She was married to a sober alcoholic man. They turned 15 and 20 in my first year of sobriety, so they were a wonderful resource for me. I called my mom to tell her I'd gone to AA, and she didn't know what was. She said, why? Because I didn't drink around then. I kept it a secret from them. And when my dad came in from work, and she was on the phone with me, and he said, who's that? And she said, Cheryl, she went to AA. And he said, why? Why would she do that? Well, the truth of the matter is, I had still enough control not to drink in situations where my parents were there, and I felt it would be inflicting alcohol on them, and they're trying to stay sober. It just didn't make a good deal for me, so I just didn't do it. There was a lot of stuff like that in my life. I just did it because it was what I was supposed to do. And I was trying not to get any further behind than I felt like I already was. I just felt like I was way behind the 8 ball, and there was little to any hope that I would ever actually catch up or get ahead. I just didn't want to get any worse, didn't want to go any further, and that was a big part of the reason I stayed in Alcoholics Anonymous, because as far as I know, this is the only thing that works over the long haul. And I've been around for a while. I've seen a number of things come and go, fun things like Est and yeah, another of my compatriots. There was Synanon at the beach. There was that great Sunset Magazine article when it was a new magazine that was talking about Alcoholics Anonymous as the new singles in scene. We were the end scene for LA for single people. Yeah, isn't that funny? One of the guys in the meeting was talking, he said, yeah, that's what you want to do. Go to the world's largest recessive gene pool and find a mate. Makes sense, right? Silly. Anyway, long story short, the last couple of years I drank. Anytime I drank until I was sick and couldn't do any more. And I woke up with the same scenario in my head. And I don't know why that one day, probably just because I was with people I worked for and with when I was drinking that day. So I called AA, and 2 women came and got me. And they took me over to Birch Street to a noon meeting. And I cried through the whole meeting, because that was all I could do at the time. And they were with a different group. They were with a Stompers group. And so I got hooked up with them for a short time and went to some meetings with them. They're kind of a little Gestapo group, or I thought they were anyway. My mom did too, frankly, so I took her suggestion and looked elsewhere and went back to the Ilano Club, which was then in Manhattan Beach, where she'd gotten sober. Actually, she got sober in the earlier club than that, and I got sober in the second club in Manhattan Beach. And I showed up, and I just kept going to meetings, and I began to meet a few people. And I was leaving one of the noon meetings, and 3 people said goodbye to me by name. I was shocked that they knew it. I didn't think anybody would want to know it. I really didn't. So that they did, though. They were loving and kind. And I don't know what else to say about that. If it hadn't been for the people that were there at the time I was there, I don't know what might have happened. But at the time that I was there, the club was full of loving people who would go out of their way to be kind, to say hi, to say, oh, you look nice today. You know, all those things I think are all taboo now out in the world, but they would do that, and they would talk to me. And when I had questions, we all went to coffee after the meetings. And I was looking at writing an inventory and went to a speaker meeting and wound up sitting next to somebody at coffee, a guy I didn't know, who had just moved here from the east somewhere. And we talked about how do you write an inventory. He showed me how to use the format in the book, the outline format. And then I could go away and do that and then call my sponsor and read it to her, which is what I did. Because I really wanted to be sober. I really didn't want to go out. I was afraid I would drink. And I was afraid that if I drank, I'd never have the courage to come back because I was so frightened. So I understand the folks that feel like that, and I try to give them some space and just let them be, because that's what I needed, and that's what they did for me, just instinctually. They weren't all running me all over town or doing anything. So I kept doing what they told me to do next. I wrote the inventory, I made the amends that I could at the time, and have made others since then. I took commitments, a lot of commitments. Those were really good for me, commitments. I went to a lot of meetings, and I had commitments at those, and I also had commitments at the club for things that, we're doing. I wound up on the board at 6 months sober. It sounds really silly now, but it wasn't so bad then, because it was a pretty small community. It's gotten pretty small around here, too. In fact, I would ask all of you to pray for this meeting to come back and be what it once was, be a room full of people wanting to stay sober and reaching out to each other and practicing the program, carrying the message as best you can. Am I at 10 now? Please say yes.
2 more minutes.
Okay, well, I can bore you for 2 more minutes, I'm sure. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me freedoms I didn't know I didn't have. In the course of working steps, things shifted in me and around me, and things that I used to couldn't do, I could do with ease. People I didn't know how to talk to, I could talk to with ease. I felt like I fit in my skin. I have felt like I fit in my skin for quite a while now. I'm not as afraid of you as I used to be. Sometimes it still comes up. It's up right now. Sometimes it comes up, but it'll go away again. one of the things I've learned that has been a real blessing for me, a couple of them, but first is that to laugh at myself. I can laugh at myself today, which I couldn't do when I got here. It was very serious. And the other one has slipped my mind because that's what's happening today. The brain is going, which is another reason I didn't want to do this, because I figured I'd get halfway through a sentence and be, which is where I'm at. And it's got to be 2 more minutes. That's good enough, right? Yeah. Thank you.
We have literature. We have big books, 12 and 12s, pamphlets, grapevines, and flyers for upcoming events at the literature table, which is backed by the food. We suggest that you do not leave here without a big book. If you cannot afford one, we'll make arrangements. We will now have a 10-minute coffee break. Please return to your seats quickly and quietly when you hear the bell ring to allow our main speaker the time and respect he deserves. That's what the format says. Break time. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm looking for our main speaker. He disappeared. Oh, there he is. Thank you for taking your seats quickly and quietly. Now, please join me in welcoming our main speaker tonight, Alan.
Thank you, Andy. Well, let me tell you, you guys had a fabulous speaker scheduled for tonight. One of the best I've ever heard, but he couldn't make it, so you're stuck with me. My name's Alan, and I'm a Gemini. Oh, shoot, I'm at the wrong meeting. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Alan Rosen, and I'm awful glad to be here. For the last time. Who said that? You, Lisa? I hope that I don't have a heart attack going home or something. If I do, I hope you say something kind. Huh? Boy, that's a rough start, Lisa. Just because we gave you grief early on. I don't know, you guys. What can I say? I was born at a very young age. I was an only child. Just don't tell my sister that. And I want to welcome the new people to Alcoholics Anonymous. Most important, you, Brooklyn. Thank you for coming. I hope you come back to another meeting another day, if you be an alcoholic. I thought there was something going on when I showed up in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, where they had memos and everybody knew everyone, and there was, you know, women were knitting. I thought it was a knitting needle, you know, party. I was waiting how long I had to stay here to get my knitting needles, because when I was a child, I loved crocheting and I never learned knitting. And all of the women were sitting doing knitting while a meeting was going on. And back then in Alcoholics Anonymous, it was the ABCs that kept us sober. It was ashtrays, brooms, and chairs. And it's different today. I got sober June 14th, 1983. I was given this gift of recovery. I ended up at a little place in Pacific Grove called Beacon House. I lived in Fresno, California. I did probably the best thing I've ever said in my life was to my divorce judge, what do I have to do so I can see my little boy on a regular basis? And he said, go see this man. He was Dean Duncan was his name. I don't know when you got sober and how long you date back to AA in Fresno. But he said, you go over there. That was September 14th, 1982 for me. I walked into the office on a Monday afternoon, and one of my dearest, oldest high school friends was working in that office. And I had to ask her, what is this all about, and can it work for me? And she assured me, and she's still alive and well and sober all these years, that it would work for me. I was a troubled child, I guess, or I caused a lot of trouble in my childhood. My best friend, I call him my brother. We were together since infancy, and we were trouble. You know, we got kicked out of kindergarten the very first day of school. So by third grade, they had to separate us. Jamie had a big mouth, and I was born this tall. And he would get your buttons, and they would come and beat him up. He would run and find me, and I said, if you want him, you have to come through me. I was a bully, and God rest his soul. I miss him every day. We did like this girl, though, in 5th grade. We got to go back to school later in life together, and Jeannie was her name, and I shouldn't even tell you this. Probably they'd file a suit on me today, but he used to hold her, and I would kiss her after school. We'd chase that girl home, and then I would hold her, and he'd get to kiss her. So that's probably wrong to admit, but it was innocent, childhood stuff. But those are the kind of guys we were. We did stupid things, and we did whatever we wanted. We were unruly. I am still today. Somewhat unruly, as some of you might comment on. I never thought the rules applied for me. I am wired different than other people. I am an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic probably since I came out of the womb. Not knowing that. I didn't know what was wrong with me. My parents didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm so glad that, I found you. It was the greatest day of my life to get sober, to find Alcoholics Anonymous and find a solution. I got to tell you, after high school, we talk about trust and faith here in recovery and how that works. Personally speaking, I used to trust the fact that if I flew from LAX to Fayetteville, North Carolina, carrying 2 suitcases of marijuana, that I'm going to make some money. And I did that on a monthly basis, month after month after month. And until the point in time when my best friend had passed away from the drug addiction that we that we developed, and I had to leave the country, and I lived, abroad in Israel. And I lived there for almost a year in 1974. And since this fucking war is going on in the Middle East, it breaks my heart. I have cousins and ex-sister-in-law that live there that I text and watch. And, I don't know. I have been beside myself from all of that because I live there and I have loved ones and I have a Zionist point of view to life. So, but that has nothing to do with drug addiction other than that was the last place I ever shot dope was in the old city of Jerusalem, which I think if they catch you with narcotics there, they cut your hands off. At least that's what they were, threatened us and told us. But for some great reason, God had saved me and gave me the wisdom just to drink alcoholically rather than, my other addiction. I am a recovering hypodermic needle user. And which you don't see a lot of long-term recovery in heroin addicts. But I am. And if you need help, I know how to do that to help you get what we have here. Had a very difficult time getting sober, staying sober. I didn't know that there was going to be a test in recovery. I didn't know that my car is going to drive to the bar and I'm going to sit inside and shake and get on the phone and call every phone number that I had in recovery and have no one show up or answer the call. I didn't know that a power greater than myself was the only thing that was going to save me. You know, we read it in the 5th chapter there, without help it is too much for us. Asking for help and getting help has always been a difficult thing for me, personally, my experience. I'd much rather, squirm and go and walk through the pain and trudge rather than tell you, hey, I surrender, I give up, and I need help on a daily basis. What's been my experience walking into Alcoholics Anonymous? I made that call to the place that the judge suggested I go, and they were talking about things that made no sense to me. I had a lot of problems in my life. I had a divorce going on. I had an ex-wife getting pregnant. I had, in Patterson, New Jersey, I had a girlfriend in Fresno pregnant. I had divorce attorneys. I had 2 companies. My insides were, since I wasn't shooting dope since '74, and now it's 1983, I was strung out on alcohol, Chivas, and cocaine. And I didn't know how Alcoholics Anonymous were going to solve those problems. It certainly didn't make any sense to me whatsoever of do this and that will be the outcome of your recovery. But God works in mysterious ways. I believe that He puts people into our lives for a reason, that they come in and they teach us something as long as I'm willing to let people into my life, that they touch my heart and show me, love and concern and are able to guide me. And I am today as a result of those men and women who have entered my life over the years of my recovery, just like I've had the wonderful opportunity of being part of your life. And you being part of mine. I'm a old, sentimental, emotional guy that I've grown into, and you have touched my heart and saved my life. I've also had the ability to watch you grow and you lights come on in your life, and that means more to me than anything else, that we keep the doors open and that we're responsible to carry a message of recovery, and that if you need help, it's here. Just reach out and I'll be there. I look back, I had some successes financially in business when I was young. I came in my 20s. I've been sober, through my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, my 60s. I'm into my 70s now. And I have, I have water, don't I? I need a little, I got it, Chris, thank you. Oh. Is my time up? Can I go home, play with my animals? Two people on Zoom. I think we should cancel Zoom and save the money, send it to New York. Too expensive. Where was I? What am I doing here? So, I moved from Fresno to LA, and I don't know how you guys have, blow my nose or to wipe my tears. Thank you. I come prepared. I think I had this jacket at someone's funeral a couple weeks ago and had tissues in there. What we do in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So I'm a new guy at the meeting with a couple 4 years, 4.5, 5 years. I do it geographic. I was born and raised in LA. My father, I used to visit him at Terminal Island, and when he was freed from Terminal Island, we moved to Fresno. And what a culture shock that was. So after I had a couple of years of recovery, my father had passed away, my mother sold the ranch, and I had the freedom of coming back to LA. But before I came to LA, I went to your Alcoholics Anonymous Universal City Conference, and I thought I would check out the AA here, see if I could live in Alcoholics Anonymous in Southern California. So I made a little, geographic run down to Universal City, all by myself. I didn't ask anyone because I don't like to ask people for help or join me. And I'm not that friendly or social. This is really a facade of, I'm a salesman by trade and I can talk to anyone anytime, but I can't small talk you. Anyhow, the long and the short is I go to the Universal AA and I hate it. I can't say hello to anyone. I can't put my hand out. I can't introduce myself. And I scratch my head and I come back to my sponsor and I say, I don't know if I can make it. The AA down there is not as good as the AA up in Fresno. And he says, listen, first of all, Art had renamed me asshole. He said, listen, asshole, sit down. And when you go there, I think you guys have heard this from me before. When you go there, find one person, just one person, and tell him everything about you. Don't do what you normally do, and that's tell a little bit about yourself to everyone. And that was one of the best things I had ever heard from him. Many things I heard from him. One of the favorites, it's a simple, is to thy own self be true. Do what's true for you. And that I still do on a, hopefully an unconscious level. But I made the decision to come here because Fresno, let's face it, had ended everything. My family had passed. Our business was sold off, our ranches, our horses, and things like that. And plus, I wanted a fresh start. I was a couple of years sober, 4.5 years, so I show up at a meeting in the San Fernando Valley, and the old-timers take the newcomers aside. I don't know if this has happened to you, but they notice that I'm the new guy in the meeting, and I'm pretty consistent. And I get sober in men's stags. So the old guys and the stags, would take me aside and they say, would you like to know the secret of recovery? And I scratch my head and I say, sure, tell me, what do you got, And they would, say stuff like, just hold on. And I would come back next week, and with that in my mind. And another old timer would say, can we tell you the secret of recovery? And I said, sure, tell me. And he says, well, all you have to do is just let go, And I've come to understand that these old timers, I wouldn't even trust them to buy friggin' tires for my truck or my Jeep at all. Because, the secret of recovery isn't letting go and it's not holding on. It's today in the moment. It's watching, what our feet do, where we walk and do things that we don't normally want to do. We do, because that's what recovery is. I'm still wired incorrectly against the world. I still have God rest Lynn's soul. I had buried Lynn in September. He was my third sponsor that I have already passed away and buried and sent my love and good wishes to. Let me tell you how my God works in my life. And I had a very difficult time with my God. My God has something to do today with my current sponsor. And it's the strangest story for me. And I can't write this, but this is the way that it has worked. It's been serendipity for me. When my father passed in '85, my girlfriend was in a Northern Council of Alcoholics Anonymous in San Francisco, and she heard this fabulous speaker. I wish he was here tonight, and I wish you could hear him much better than me. And Chuck D was his name. And he had a message of hope and recovery. And when I was driving home from a visit with her, she said, "You're going to need this tape." I was just grieving the passing of my father, and that was the beginning of 6 consecutive deaths in my life. So if you had to go to a funeral, I would be a correspondent. I could be an advocate. I could tell you what to wear, how to dress, what to say, all of those things about a funeral, because I became very, very familiar. I have some great prayers for burying loved ones. But that having been said, I listened to this man's tape, and I got a message of hope and recovery from it. And I listened to it once. I listened to it 1,000,000 times. I knew where he got sober, how he got sober, who he got sober with, why are you here, and why he got sober, and why he's here. I knew that like the back of my hand. It gave me hope, and it gave me some inspiration to move on through the grief of a loved one's passing, through the support of my mother and my sister. And I was 85. At 87, 89, 87, 88, I started trading cars. I had no work, because I had been a drunk, and first inventory I did was my company, and I went bankrupt immediately. So I started buying cars. I would buy high-end cars in LA, and I'd truck them to San Francisco, and in San Francisco I'd sell them at the auctions. I'd buy them there, and I'd truck them down here, and I'd sell them here. And after going to all these auto auctions, I see a little guy at the podium, one of the auctioneers with an AA ring, and 2.5 years, 4 years sober, I say, "Oh, I must meet this guy. That's you. Are you a friend of Bill's?" And he said, "Yeah, Alan, are you?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, listen, come here during lunch, because we have a meeting every morning, 6 a.m. Let me show you where that meeting is." I hit him up at lunch. We go, we walk up. It's a Ford Motor Company auction here in LA County. We go up to the meeting, starts introducing me to people, and this big tall guy stands up and says, "Hello." And I said, "Oh my God, I think I know who you are. You're Chuck Denmark, aren't you? You're Chuck D. I heard your tape. You spoke in San Francisco." And I look at his desk, and he's bigger and taller than I am, and it's the same guy that I never met on the tape who's right now in front of me. And I said, "I got to tell you a story. You just saved my life. I lost my father. Soon after his passing, my brother-in-law had an accident with our horses. He passed away. My stepmother, my second mother, I had death after death, and grief after grief, and struggles of tragedy with me and my family that they went through. And this guy gave me so much inspiration to listen to his pitch. Never saw the guy again after that day, until March of 2018. I'm at my home group in Riverside, California, because I got tired of driving from here to there. I moved there. I had a business up until 2020. And my home group Thursday night, if you're ever in Riverside, is the, I'm going to forget the name of it now. great speaker meeting. Anyhow, they introduced the speaker, and they, please welcome Chuck D. from Laguna Niguel. And I hit Bill next to me. I said, if this is the Chuck D that I know, you're in for one of the best pitches ever. And sure enough, it's the same guy that I met 35 friggin' years ago, and I listened to 37 years ago. And I don't know how you guys do, but I was taught people that thank the speaker usually stay sober. So, and plus I had to tell him who I was and who he was in my life. And so I'm the last guy to thank the speaker. And I tell him the story of 85 and 87 and 88. And then here he is in front of me. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, you're my new best friend. And here's my card. And call me. And we swapped numbers, and we've been friends ever since. After the next day, I called him up because I wanted to make sure he gave me the right phone number. I don't know how you guys are with phone numbers, but I had to make sure that he gave me the right one because he was so important to me. And what he had done this year when Lynn was sick and fighting cancer and dying was I had asked him if he would be my sponsor because I believe in sponsorship. Prior to Lynn's death for the last 6, 7 years, 8 years of him sponsoring me, we had a Monday morning time and a Thursday morning time. Those were minimum times. And Chuck, has a Tuesday morning at a coffee shop. People from all over LA, all over the country, come and have coffee with this man every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. There might be 5 guys or 15 guys, but they come from all over. And he said, I won't be your sponsor, but you can call me anytime, and I'll always be your friend. And when I turned 40 years sober, he wrote, a little scribbage that his sponsor, which was Chuck C., who sponsored him in the early 70s. I guess Chuck is 50 years sober. So that's how God has worked in my life. And I've had some problems about making the decision to personally step down at this position because I've been here for 16 months, 18 months now, and I think you're tired of me, and I'm certainly tired of you. But I can't tell you I love you to pieces, Your life is more important than anything else in your recovery, in my book. And you know who I am, and if you ever need me, feel free 24/7 to give me a call. I've had troubles staring back and looking back when I got sober and how that could be. How could that happen to you? And I never went to jail until I got sober, And I was 1 year on June 14th, 1984, sober, and I was sentenced to 55 days for contempt of divorce court, naturally, right? I'm a contemptible. And I had a very difficult time with my freedom taken away and my girlfriend driving my little Porsche, a brand new Porsche. I thought when you're sober, I'm going to buy myself a present. And I made the error of doing that because I'm always thinking of myself. It was the nail that, closed the coffin on Alan Rosen. But I'm sitting in jail, and I have a big coffee pot like our coffee pot, Carly, and I have a pay telephone. And everything's collect, right? So I'm talking to my sponsor, and my girlfriend, we live together, and she has 5 sisters, and they're very attractive, young. We're in our 20s. We had it going on when we were young, and I would call Art, and I said, I know she's driving that car out with all those sisters, and I'm going to be, I'm jealous, I'm resentful, I'm everything, And my sponsor, Art, God bless you, rest your soul, Art, he would say things to me like, Alan, you're right where you're supposed to be. And you may never have to do that again. And I said, Art, you didn't hear me. Susan's out. I know she's out with her sisters, Linda and Stacy. And they're probably, drinking and dancing. And they have the car. And, and what had happened to me there is I had another experience with a power greater than myself. God had started to do for me. And I knew I had problems with this lack of esteem or jealousy or these other problems. Back in '84, they only had typewriters. They didn't have computers, word processing. So I typed out a little prayer for me to take to save my ass from falling, into all of this, crazy stuff. And I found this. I've been doing fall cleaning in my home, which is, I like at the end of the year to do an inventory and to clean house and to make plans for the new year. I kind of do that annually. And this came out of one of my many different books. And I want to read you what it says to me because it was my 7-step prayer. But what really hit home to me on an emotional level, on emotional sobriety, or on an emotional soul, hit my soul, is may I stop making unrealistic emotional demands on others, which only serve to choke off mature human relationships and leave me bewildered and let down. Only God can provide the kind of wholehearted love which I, as a dependent person, seem to need. The best possible source for emotional stability is my higher power. We find dependence upon God's perfect justice, forgiveness, and love is healthy, and that it works where nothing else does. Apparently, from the day I was born to the day I stand in front of you, I'm always in need of something, whether it was a drink, a fix, a girl, a job, money, property, or marbles, or prestige. I always am in need. I'm a needy person. But it seems that over the years of trudging this road and doing what you told me to do, such as show up in a meeting, such as work with a sponsor, such as go through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, 1 through 12, that I will have recovery in my life. I've also come to believe, as my friend had said, the steps are the program. Certainly it's my privilege to use part of them, none of them, or all of them. Regardless of my approach, I'm still a member of the fellowship. Tradition 3 guarantees this. It seems to be a considerable confusion that arises from this point. I don't have to do anything as a member of AA. On the other hand, to follow the program and get the results it guarantees, there's a number of things I must do. It's my right to use 6 steps, 3 of them or none of them. But what I'll have is something other than the AA program. At that point, what I have is my own invention. It's a product of my arrogant stupidity and my own willingness, once again, to pay attention and follow directions. A fragmented program will leave me fragmented. Using the prescription produces inadequate results. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. I've done this wrong for a long time, and I'm trying to do it right one more day. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you in my life. I can't thank the people like you, Carly and Irene and Robert and Jan and Christopher and Chris and all of the people, and Jan and Phil and Andy, who have shown up for me constantly, daily, weekly, and you've enriched my life. You've put a handprint of God on my heart, and I hope to take it with me for the rest of my days. I thank you, and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Thank you. All right? Is what it is.